In just a short time, the UN Security Council, is set to vote on a resolution relating to last month's chemical attack in Syria. It was put forward by Britain, France, and the United States and calls on the Syrian government to cooperate with an investigation into the deadly attack. Russia is widely expected to veto the measure. Earlier today, U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations, Nikki Haley, warned Russia in regards to its relationship with Syria.
The United States was compelled to act. We will not allow the use of chemical weapons to go unanswered. We are not going to look the other way. We are watching the regime's actions carefully. To my colleagues from Russia, you are isolating yourselves from the international community every time one of Assad's planes drop another barrel bomb on civilians, and every time Assad tries to starve another community to death. People not just in the West, but across the Middle East and the world are speaking out against Assad's brutality. It is long past time for Russia to stop covering for Assad.
Gayle Tzemach Lemmon is a senior fellow at the Council on Foreign Relations and a contributing editor at Defense One and is with us now. Gayle, what exactly is this resolution intended to do?
Well, the resolution is intended to condemn the chemical weapons attack and also to really push for investigators to have access on the ground to investigate who did it and to really bring a conclusive end to the debate about whether the regime was responsible or not. But I think what is striking for a lot of us who've watched this for years is really what you have now is the same divide, the same debate, and a different administration in Washington.
What about Russia? Why would they veto this resolution?
They have vetoed resolution after resolution after resolution. Ask Ambassador Power about, who sat in Ambassador Haley's seat and went through almost exactly the same thing, right? I think what you see is that Russia has always been all in on the side of the regime, and anything that has tried to take the regime to task for the brutality, the carnage, the besiegement of Syrian cities has been vetoed by Russia endlessly. And that's why the UN has done almost nothing in this war that has really run out of adjectives to describe its carnage.
We heard Nikki Haley earlier warning Russia about this relationship and the defense of the Syrian regime. What role do you think Russia is playing in all of this?
Russia really has changed facts on the ground inside Syria. In 2015, it intervened. I remember actually not too long ago interviewing a Syrian refugee in Turkey who showed me the hole in the ground where his home used to be in Aleppo after a Russian airstrike. So they changed the facts on the ground in favor of the Syrian regime so that if and when a diplomatic process ever came, the regime would negotiate from a far greater position of strength than it would have if Russia had not gotten in on their side. And all along, you've had Russia, Iran, and the Syrian regime all in versus U.S. and the West, which has sort of dipped a toe in here and there and really tried to stay out of this civil war.
If Russia vetoes this resolution, like they are expected to do, turn it for the international community. What do they do to get answers to what actually happened?
Well, there is a real push to get OPCW, which is an acronym for basically people who investigate chemical weapon attacks, investigators to come in. Now, I think it's so important to remember that this body has already found the regime guilty of chemical attacks on the Syrian people in 2014 and 2015. So the chemical attacks are not new. What is new is these horrible images of little ones, of babies who are, under gray blankets, gasping for air that finally pushed the international community to act, and a new administration in the White House that showed it was actually ready to respond to these.
You talk of that new administration. How should the U.S. proceed at this point?
Well, I think what is fascinating is that I wrote a piece last week that, there was a whole sense from people who worked inside the Obama administration of, right move, right words, wrong White House, which is that this was something that people inside the White House of the Obama administration had pushed for years, mostly to give a real push, a diplomatic push to the Geneva peace process, which has drowned and dragged on for years while moms and dads have watched their children be gassed and starved to death. And so I think if you finally see a push to get Russia to the table to negotiate on behalf of the regime, with the regime sort of coming behind it, then maybe you can get to a negotiated end to this war. But the real question is, when facts on the ground are in their favor and in the regime's favor, and they are scoring military wins, do they have any incentive to make a deal?
Yeah, you mentioned that the impact that the images had. That's why they say a picture's worth a thousand words. Gayle Tzemach Lemmon, thank you. We appreciate it.
Great to join you.